I didn't find out where I ranked in my family through a fight. Not through screaming, not through tears, not even through one of those dramatic moments people replay for years. I found out at a baby shower. My mother clinked her glass like she was giving a toast, smiling the way she smiles when she's already decided what the truth is. She looked at my brother and his pregnant wife, then she turned to the crowd, and then, like it was a cute little joke, she said, "Of course Rowan will handle the hard parts. She always does. She's built for it." People laughed. Not cruel laughter, not even mean laughter, just comfortable laughter. The kind you laugh when the sentence fits a story everyone already believes. My dad nodded like she'd just read the weather report. My brother didn't even look up from his drink. And his wife smiled, relieved, like she'd just been promised a safety net she didn't have to weave herself. I stood there with a ribbon spool in my hands and felt something shift. Not my heart, not in the dramatic way people expect. Something cleaner than that. My loyalty didn't shatter. It detached. Before I tell you what I did next, if you're listening right now, take a second to like, subscribe, and comment where you're listening from. And tell me honestly, have you ever had a moment where you realized you were the backup plan in your own family? My name is Rowan Hale, and for most of my life I learned my position without anyone ever sitting me down to explain it. No rules posted on the fridge, no speeches about family roles, just patterns, quiet patterns, that shape you before you even realize you're being shaped. I grew up in a neat house outside Charlotte, the kind of neighborhood that looks safe and calm from the outside. Trim hedges, porch lights that always worked, family photos in matching frames. My parents liked order. They liked the image of a solid, functioning family. And in a way, we were solid, just not equally. My older brother, Gavin, was the center of it all. He had that gravity some people are born with, the kind that makes conversations bend toward them without anyone noticing they're bending. When Gavin talked, people listened like it mattered. When Gavin sighed, people asked what was wrong. When Gavin wanted something, plans rearranged themselves like they were happy to. And me? I was the one who didn't need much. That's what they always said, like it was praise, like it was proof I was easy, like it made me good. "Rowan's fine," my mom would say. "Rowan's independent." Independent was the word they used when they didn't want to show up. Independent was the label they put on me so they could stop checking whether I was okay. When Gavin got a B in school, my parents blamed the teacher, the curriculum, the pressure. When I got an A, they nodded and said, "See, she's fine." When Gavin forgot something, it was a family mission. When I forgot something, it was a life lesson. I don't think they hated me. That's the part that makes it hard to explain to people who haven't lived it. I was loved in theory, in reassurance, in those warm phrases that sounded supportive on the surface. "You'll be fine. You're strong. You can handle it. You don't get overwhelmed like other people." Love that sounded generous, but carried an unspoken condition. Don't ask for more. Don't take up space. Don't need us the way he needs us. I noticed it in small moments before I understood what they meant. Birthdays where Gavin's gifts were planned weeks ahead, wrapped beautifully, chosen like someone had paid attention to who he was. My gifts were practical. A sweater in my size, a gift card, something picked up on the way home because we weren't sure what you wanted, and you're not picky. Family trips where Gavin's sports tournaments dictated the schedule, and I stayed home because it's easier and you don't mind. School events where my parents showed up late for mine but always on time for his, because his mattered more in the way priorities become obvious without being announced. By the time I was a teenager, I stopped asking. When you keep reaching and your hand keeps closing around air, you don't rage at the air forever. You learn to keep your hands to yourself. You learn to need less. You learn to swallow your hope before it has a chance to embarrass you. And the worst part was that my success became their excuse. I got scholarships. I worked 2 jobs. I chose a practical major. I kept my grades high. I didn't get into trouble. I didn't call home crying. I didn't demand anything. And every time I succeeded, it reinforced the story they liked telling themselves. See? Rowan's fine. She doesn't need us. She can handle it. It never occurred to them that maybe I could handle it because I had no choice. After college, I moved to Nashville and built a stable life. Steady job, consistent routine, money and savings, a small apartment that felt peaceful because no one was demanding pieces of me. And my family stayed the same. They didn't call to ask how I was. They called when they needed something done, a form to fill out, a bill to cover just for now, a last-minute request because we're in a pinch. They never asked directly for a lot at once. That would have required acknowledging what they were doing. Instead, it was always small, casual, assumed. Can you spot us for a week? Can you cover this and we'll pay you back? Can you take care of this since you're good with money? I used to comply automatically, the old reflex, the need to keep the peace, the fear that if I said no, I'd be the bad one. But after that baby shower toast, something in me changed. I started hearing their words differently. Rowan will handle the hard parts. Not, Rowan helps because she wants to. Not, Rowan is important to us. Just, Rowan will. Like gravity. Like weather. Like infrastructure. 2 days after the shower, my mom texted me. Since you're so good with money, can you cover the deposit for the nursery furniture? We'll pay you back. No, please. No amount stated. No awareness that she was asking. It was written like a note to herself, like a line item. Normally, I would have replied in seconds. Of course, don't worry about it. My fingers even hovered over the keyboard. Then I set my phone down. I made coffee, I ate breakfast, I went to work, I sat in meetings. I lived a normal day, and nothing exploded. An hour later, a second text. Everything okay? You've been quiet. Quiet. That word made me pause, because I had been quiet my whole life. I finally responded with one sentence. I can't do that. No explanation, no apology, just the boundary. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, what do you mean you can't? You have savings. I stared at the message and felt something sharpen. So they didn't love my independence. They loved what my independence could fund. I replied, my savings are for me. The phone rang 10 seconds later. My mom's voice was soft but tight, like she was trying to stay gentle while pressing down harder. Rowan, honey, are you mad at us? No, I said. I'm just not paying. Silence. Then the familiar pivot. You know Gavin and his wife are under pressure. The baby's coming. They're stressed. I listened to her talk, calm and steady, like I was watching a pattern play out from outside my own body. Then I said, and I'm not their emergency plan. My mother inhaled like I'd insulted her. Families help each other, she said. I almost laughed, because that sentence had always been aimed in one direction, always toward me. I said, families don't draft one member as the permanent helper. She got quieter, and in that quiet, her words got more honest. I just thought you'd understand your place in all this. My place. There it was. Not gratitude, not respect, not love. A role. And once I heard it clearly, I couldn't unhear it. 2 weeks later, my dad called. That alone felt like a warning. My dad wasn't the one who asked for things. My mom asked, and my dad supported. He was the nod behind her words. His voice sounded older than usual. Rowan, he said, we need you to come home this weekend. What happened? I asked. A pause. Then, it's Gavin. Of course it was. I drove to Charlotte that Friday and walked into my childhood home with my stomach already tight. The house looked the same. Same paint, same furniture, same framed photos of a family that looked more equal on paper than it ever was in real life. The kitchen table was buried under documents, loan statements, past due notices, final warnings. A letter stamped with that official look that makes your skin go cold. My brother's pregnant wife was on the couch, crying silently. Gavin paced like a man looking for a door that wasn't there. My mom's eyes were swollen. My dad avoided my gaze like it burned. No one asked me how my drive was. No one offered water. No one said, "We're sorry you had to come." They were waiting waiting for me to do what I always did, fix it. My dad started explaining in that steady voice he used when he wanted to sound responsible. Gavin's business. It's in trouble. He took out a short-term loan, then another. Then things snowballed. Payments got behind. It was supposed to be temporary. Gavin snapped, defensive. It wasn't supposed to go like this. My mom turned to me with that look, half desperation, half expectation. You're stable, she said. You don't have kids. You're the only one who can... I lifted my hand. Stop, I said. The room froze. One word, and everyone went still like a record scratch. Then I asked the question no one wanted to hear. What's the plan if I don't? They stared at me. My mom looked wounded. My dad looked confused. Gavin looked angry, like I'd broken a rule I hadn't even agreed to. And no one answered, because in their world, there was no if. There was only when Rowan pays. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my old bedroom and listened to the house settle, the quiet creaks and pops that used to feel familiar. I thought about the baby shower toast. Rowan will handle the hard parts. And I realized something that made my chest feel strangely calm. They weren't going to change. Not because they were evil, because this worked. It worked for them. So if anything was going to change, it would have to be me. The next morning, while everyone slept, I went to the kitchen table and started reading the papers. Not skimming, reading. And then my stomach dropped. One of the loans wasn't just connected to Gavin's business. It was connected to me. My name, my old address, my information. I stared at it so long the letters started to blur, like my brain refused to accept what my eyes were seeing. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it was a typo. Maybe... No. I took the paper into the bathroom, locked the door, and opened my credit report on my phone. And there it was. A line of debt I never approved. A loan I never signed. A signature that looked like mine if someone copied it slowly, carefully, like they'd practiced. I sat on the cold tile floor and felt something wash through me. Not panic, not tears, a clean, quiet fury. Because this wasn't just favoritism. This wasn't just being ignored. This was theft. They didn't just rank me last, they spent me. That morning, I didn't confront them immediately. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the paper across the room. I left the house. I drove to a coffee shop, sat in a corner booth, and made calls with hands that didn't shake because my body had reached the point where shock turns into focus. I froze my credit. I scheduled an appointment with a lawyer. I called my bank and moved my money into accounts no one could access. No one could accidentally touch. No one could treat like a family resource. Then I went back to the house. They were at the table waiting like a jury, the same documents spread out, the same helpless faces arranged in a way that was supposed to trigger my old instincts. My mom started with softness. "We're really glad you're here," she said, as if my presence alone was already a gift I'd given them. "We just need a little help to get through this part." I sat down slowly, opened my bag, and placed my phone on the table with my credit report pulled up. Then I slid the loan document toward my father. "I want you to explain," I said, "why my name is on this." My dad went pale. My mom blinked rapidly. Gavin stopped pacing. His wife looked up, confused at first, then frightened as the meaning landed. My father's voice came out quiet. "It's complicated." "No," I said. "It's illegal." Gavin's face hardened like he was about to argue, but then he did something worse. He justified it. "I was going to fix it before it hit you," he said. I stared at him. "You didn't fix anything," I replied. "You hid it, and you assumed I'd pay before I could ask questions." My mom reached for my hand automatically, like touch could pull me back into place. "Sweetheart," she whispered, "we didn't think it would go this far." I pulled my hand back. "That's what you always say," I told her. "You never think. You just expect." My dad swallowed hard. "What do you want, Rowan?" There it was. The negotiation. The part where they believed I'd name a number and they'd sigh in relief. I looked around the table and understood something clearly. This wasn't a moment to beg for love. This was a moment to set consequences. So I said it plainly. I'm not giving you money. The flinch was immediate. My mom's mouth opened like the air left her lungs. Gavin's wife made a small sound like pain. Gavin's eyes narrowed. My dad leaned forward, like he could still pressure me into the role by sheer force of expectation. I continued, calm, steady, not cruel, just finished. But I am offering a choice. I slid a folder onto the table. Not a donation, not a bailout, a structured resolution designed to protect me, not save their pride. My dad opened it first. His eyebrows knit as he scanned. My mom leaned over his shoulder. Gavin craned his neck, and as he read, his face changed from anger to disbelief to something like fear. This is a contract, my dad said flatly. Yes, I replied, because you've proven you can't be trusted with assumptions. My mom's voice trembled. Why are there conditions? Because this isn't an emergency donation, I said. It's controlled damage. The terms were simple and brutal in their honesty. Before anything moved forward, Gavin's assets had to be listed and sold where possible. The expensive subscriptions, the image expenses, the things he kept while pretending he was drowning, those would end first. Spending had to be documented, every payment tracked. No new loans, no new commitments, no more pretending. And the biggest one, the one that made Gavin's jaw tighten, a legally binding repayment plan for the debt connected to my name, with automatic withdrawals and consequences if a payment was missed. No speeches, no family understands, no you know how hard this is, just responsibility. My dad pushed the folder away like it was dirty. This is cold, he snapped. This is how banks treat people. I nodded once. Then treat me like a bank, I said. Because when you needed emotional support, I was family. When you needed money, I was infrastructure. My mom's eyes filled with tears. This feels like you're punishing us. I shook my head slowly. No, I said. This is me ending the punishment of me. Gavin finally exploded. You're really going to do this to your own brother? I met his gaze and didn't blink. You did it to your own sister first, I said. The room went quiet. Not confusion this time, discomfort. The kind that comes when a lie has been working for years and someone finally pulls it into daylight. I stood up. You have 24 hours, I told them. Pick your choice. My mom's voice cracked like a wire under strain. If we say no, she asked, are you leaving us? I paused with my hand on the doorknob, not because I was tempted to soften it, because I wanted the words to land exactly as they were. I'm not leaving you, I said. I'm leaving the version of me you trained to obey. Then I walked out. That night, my phone buzzed nonstop. Messages, calls, voicemails that swung between guilt and anger and bargaining. I didn't answer. I slept better than I had in years. The next day, I came back at the same time. Same driveway, same porch, same front door. But I felt different stepping inside. They were already seated. The folder was on the table. Pens were out. No one smiled. No one offered coffee. My dad looked tired. My mom looked like she'd cried all night. Gavin looked like he'd swallowed pride until it turned to acid. And his wife stared at her hands, like she was seeing the cost of her comfort in a new way. My dad slid the folder toward me. We'll do it, he said. No apology, no acknowledgement of what they'd done. Just the decision. I watched Gavin sign. His hand shook. My father signed like it pained him to accept that I'd forced structure into a family that preferred denial. My mother signed last, whispering, I never wanted it to be like this. I looked at her and felt something surprising. Not satisfaction, not pity, just truth. It was like this, I said. You just never had to say it out loud. After that, life didn't transform overnight. There were no movie moments, no magical healing. But the panic started to fade because panic thrives on people being rescued. When no one rescues you, reality becomes unavoidable. Gavin sold things he didn't need. He cut expenses he'd defended for years. He learned what it felt like to be uncomfortable without dumping that discomfort onto me. My parents stopped saying, "We'll figure it out," when they meant Rowan will. And the strangest part? They started calling differently. Not always, not perfectly, but enough that I noticed. Sometimes my mom called and asked how I was, then waited for the answer without redirecting to Gavin's crisis. Sometimes my dad asked about my work like it mattered, not as a quick formality before a request. Gavin didn't become kind, he became cautious. And for the first time, that caution wasn't my problem to fix. Back in Nashville, my life felt quieter, lighter, like I'd been walking around with a weight vest I didn't know I was wearing until I finally took it off. My phone didn't feel like a leash anymore. I stopped flinching when it buzzed. I stopped bracing for the next emergency, because the emergency wasn't my identity anymore. Here's what I learned. Being the strong one can become a convenient excuse for everyone else to stay weak. And if you don't set boundaries, the people closest to you will build their comfort on your silence. This wasn't revenge in the loud way. It was revenge in the quietest way, the way that actually changes things. I stopped being available to be used. I chose myself. And once I did, they finally had to face what they'd built, without my money acting like a curtain. If this story felt familiar, comment where you're listening from and tell me, have you ever been treated like the spare in your own family? This is Revenge File Tales. And if you want more stories where people stop shrinking and start reclaiming their power, subscribe, because the next file is even colder.